Greetings to all of you across the Regions Beyond world, and thank you so much for taking the time to watch this DVD. As you can see from the backdrop, I'm in quite an extraordinary setting. I'm actually sitting in the amphitheater in Ephesus, the place that Gaius and I think it was Aristarchus were pulled before crowds that filled this entire amphitheater. Because of the impact that the gospel was having across the city of Ephesus. And it's from this city that Paul was able to later write and say that all of Asia Minor has been reached. There's no more space for me to work. And so it's a wonderful experience and extraordinary just to consider all that God's done through this great church. For us in Regions Beyond, our world too has grown tremendously over the last year. Sometimes I feel a little like the ladies who went down to the tomb and found that Jesus is not dead, he is alive. And it says that they returned to the disciples afraid but full of joy. And I must admit at times to feeling a little like that as God spreads our influence and our impact across the nations. The past year has been an extraordinary one for us. We've put a lot of effort into strengthening the existing churches within Regions Beyond because we do believe that we cannot press forward unless our home situation is a healthy one. And so we've been able to release many gifts across our churches. And even as I record this DVD, Trevor and Rachel Payne from Bromley in the UK are presently in Missoula in America, helping strengthen the churches in that region. And so we've worked very hard for that. Also, it's been wonderful to break into some new situations, some of them being like Ethiopia with Jasper and Noel, and such a joy to see the work that they're beginning to do there. The work in Philippines has been extraordinary. We're a young group of leaders with a young group of followers have kick-started something that is just so impressive, and they're now gone to 2 meetings a day. Down in South Africa with Jeff and Viv and the launch of Hope Church and so on and so on. Recently in the UK, Dave and Sue White planting in Edenbridge. And it's such a joy to see our world expanding. But not only have we seen some tremendous church plants, we have also seen very, very effective work among the poor in real crisis situations. And thank you for standing with us for Burundi, and continue to pray for them, please. But also down in Cape Town recently, I visited the Bay Community Church, and to see the work they are doing through the Sozo Foundation with Anton and Ilana is just so impressive. And also besides concentrating on making sure that we are effective among those who struggle across the nations, we've also spent a lot of effort and time and resources on inspiring and leading our 20s and 30s. And so one of the highlights of this past year has been the Transform conferences held in the UK, and then on to India and across in South Africa as well. And what extraordinary times they were to see our young adults getting so passionate for the purposes of God. The extent of our reach as a church movement has been due to us working together, and I want to thank you for the last year and all we've been able to do. Last year we joined together and were able as churches across the world to give some £110,000, and it was such a joy to be able to spread that across the nations. We're on 5 continents now, and to see the work of God expand as we supported various initiatives. Now we head into 2016 shortly, and once again as a team we've gathered, we've looked at all that God's calling us to do and all we'd love to do. We want to continue very intentionally to strengthen our existing churches, and myself, Ray Lowe, Gary Welsh, others, Gavin Northcote in Philippines, and so on, many others, are spreading across the nations for this purpose, to make sure that we build well in what we have in our existing churches. But furthermore, we really do want to press on and see new communities born. There's nothing like a local church in an environment to change a town or a village. We've seen that so many times before. And so it's exciting to think of Colin and Pam Nichols, 3 young children heading to Bloemfontein in South Africa to join a team there and to see a work born that I know will have impact across my own nation of South Africa, but also into Lesotho and the surrounding areas. We will continue to press for that and trust that many churches can be planted over the months and the years ahead. But also in 2016, we want to continue to support churches in areas of the world where resources are very scarce. Philippines, Lesotho, Brazil at the moment, where we really need to get behind John and Flor Evans, who've recently come into the Regions Beyond family. And so, brothers and sisters, we want to call on you. I want to ask you to join Heather and I, my base church Gateway in Dubai, as well as churches across the world, whether we are under a tree or in a school hall or in some magnificent building as we have in Dubai or your own facility. I want to call on you to join us as once again through the month of November we take up an offering that will resource all that God's calling us to do in 2016. Last year was magnificent and I cannot thank you enough. And I want to call on your generosity. It's from this place that Paul actually called on the Corinthians to really step up and say, come on, join us in this great adventure. And I hope that you will do that as we press into 2016. Our need this year is far greater, and God has been so faithful to us. And so I don't enter the year with any great concern. But we would love to see an offering of some £150,000 if we could, where we could meet the growing needs of our family. So I want to call on you to be generous. Wouldn't it be wonderful in the years when we could look back and say, we filled that whole area with the gospel, and to be able to join the believers of this great city and of the past, the pioneers of the past, and say, we were faithful with what God gave us. So your elders will lead you into this month of giving in November. Please join us, seek God. We don't ask you for more than what God puts in your heart. But let's stand together and let's do great things across the nations. Once again, thank you so much for your support, your prayers over 2015. For many of you, I saw in the nations, and I look forward to another fantastic year as we go into 2016. Help us resource it. Let's go make Jesus famous right across the nations. God bless you.